Well, let me call to order the workshop today, November the 4th at 9 o'clock. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, commissioners, who do we have here today?
Evans here. Thanks.
Cox is there. Abbott here.
Executive Director Rogers present.
And we have Amanda Weaver who would like to speak this morning. Go ahead, Amanda.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, I would like to ask that the district make some changes to the agenda rules and regulations for the public comment portion because a lot of what's listed here is actually unconstitutional. First off, it says all speakers have to state their name and full address before speaking. At the last meeting, your own council confirmed that citizens do not have to give their address as a condition to speak. Florida Attorney General in Opinion AGO 200513 also made it clear that boards can't require people to show ID or give personal information just to attend or speak at a public meeting. So legally, none of us are required to provide our name or address. I give you mine as a courtesy. Next, your rules say that remarks must be directed to the board as a whole, not to individual members. But the case Moms for Liberty versus Brevard Public Schools found that kind of rule was unconstitutionally applied. People are allowed to direct comments to individual board members. Then there's a rule about courtesy and respect. I completely agree that everyone should be respectful. But the line that bans rude or disruptive behavior, personal attacks, or questioning someone's motives or integrity goes too far. The Moms for Liberty case also said that offensive or unwelcome speech is still protected speech. And in Hall Rayford versus City of East Point, the court said the public has the right to express criticism or praise toward public officials. The Eisen versus Madison case went further, saying you can't prohibit speech just because it offends the board or the audience. Cleveland versus Cocoa Beach also reminds us that even in a limited public forum, while you can set reasonable rules, you can't discriminate based on viewpoint. That applies to your social media too. When you delete comments or block users, like what happened with my comment on the October 21st YouTube meeting, or deleting and blocking others, I have screenshots of all, from commenting further, that's a First Amendment violation. The courts in O'Connor-Ratcliffe versus Garnier and Linkty versus Freed both ruled that when a government body opens social media for two-way communication, it becomes a limited public forum. You can't delete or block people just because they criticize the district or the board. Your own employee manual even says that your social media sites must state the Pasco County Mosquito Control District has created this page as a limited public forum for the purpose of providing the public with information. Once a two-way communication is open between the district and the public, and when that happens, those same First Amendment protections apply. So I'm simply asking that you revise these rules so they align with the law and make sure the public's right to free speech is fully respected both here and online. Thank you very much.
Next we have Kathy Julian.
I don't really have much to add to her comments. I was going to speak about the exact same lawsuit or the judgment. Another elected official in the county had alerted me after watching videos, and she said, they're breaking the law every time they're violating your First Amendment rights. I was going to bring my Constitution to read you those rights, but I forgot it. So that's all I have to say. And I'm amazed at your recovery.
Well, thank you.
You really blow my mind.
Yeah, thank you. Me too.
I'm impressed.
Okay, next up, and the purpose of the workshop today is to do our best for adding comments and wrap up on the new employee handbook. So we'll turn it over to Director Rogers.
Thank you, Chairman. At the last board meeting, we discussed the need to hold a workshop to review and discuss several items in the new proposed employee handbook that represented substantive changes to some of our existing policies and some new policies that have been added. So the intent today is to focus specifically on those areas that require further discussion and input and direction from the board before finalizing the document for approval. As you recall, legal counsel advised at our last meeting that it would be most cost effective for her to participate in the workshop today to hear the guidance and feedback directly from the board in this workshop discussion, and then incorporate any agreed upon revisions into the policy language for review and formal approval at the next meeting. So we have already completed the internal administrative review process. What remains are those key areas where we would like the input from the board. And so what we'll do, in your packets, you have a table of contents from the updated handbook, and they are color-coded based on what has been added that's new policy language, areas that need review and further discussion in yellow, and then items for consideration if we still require those in red. So I would like to focus on the yellow and red today, and we will essentially just go down in order as they appear in the manual, unless you all have objection to that.
Sounds good. That's fine.
Okay, very good. Ms. Donaldson, are you online with us? And can you hear us?
I'm here, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, very good. So of course, anything that does require legal counsel, make sure that you speak up so that she can hear you very clearly and articulate as best you can so that there's no issues in communication. Please. Okay, so the first item for discussion is a new consideration for how we're treating employees that have relatives or friends that are already employed at the district. So if you flip to the first policy document that you have in your packet. Yeah, I realize it's out of order, so if you could just go to the third page in your book there, Commissioner. So we're looking at, in the new handbook, what would be item 3.6, employment of relatives or friends. So you see the current policy that we have been operating under on the left-hand, in the left-hand column, and the newly proposed language on the right side of the page. Does anyone have any comments or questions, issues with that?
Just give me a second, because I printed these changes out, and I just want to make sure I don't have any notes on what I did.
And my team, anything that I need to highlight that I am not saying, please interject at any time and add the input.
It's a lot less wordy.
So a lot of the language, you'll notice, is a lot less wordy. The intent is to be more concise and clear so that we can consistently administer these policies.
I like it.
And unfortunately, there's been some ambiguity in what we had, and so we really wanted to shore up that language.
This is fine.
Everyone's okay with that one?
I'm good with it.
As
Oh, I have a comment, as always. I'm in agreement with it. It's just interesting where we started and where we are now. You know, this started as a family protection business of public health with the founding families of West Pasco, and they came in, they worked, some people volunteered. And even in the last 15, 20 years, we had several family members working here. But I certainly understand current regulations doesn't work so well, so what a change.
Well,
As we'll find with several policies here.
we want to ensure that we can fairly and consistently apply policies across the board, and unfortunately, when you do have relationships that are personal in nature with people who are potentially a subordinate or a supervisory role, that can cause conflict, and we don't want to get into a situation where we don't have policy on that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Kind of prevents upward mobility as well, potentially.
Right, right. Now, just a thought that popped in my mind is I thought of the Cubas and Swartzels and others that still interface and act with those, you know, those families are still in town, and think how different it was. The job had to be done, you just call the people and go get it done.
Yeah.
But, anyway, go ahead.
All right, the next policy in the book that you have there, we'll just continue to go right along. All four package should be in the same order here. So we're looking at travel expenses. Don't worry about the table of contents, just flip to the next page if you would.
Oh. Got it?
So in the new handbook, it's item 4.13.
So a question I had on this, so in the case of air travel or stay at lodgings, what about, frequent flyer miles or room night stays for, different, hotel chains and that type of thing? I don't believe I saw it addressed in here, but is it the policy that the employee accumulate those and benefit from those, or is that something that the district should get? I know companies do it it's one way or the other.
I believe there is some legal guidance that we should be referencing on this. Ms. Donaldson, did you hear the question?
Yes, I actually have not had this issue come up because generally the districts let the employees, like if there are points that you don't have enough travel where it becomes a major problem, like private companies that have people traveling every week. I know that goes into play, but in this scenario, generally with special districts, there's not substantial travel for conferences and that type of thing. So my clients generally just let them have it. One of the big things that the only thing I would say is if a hotel has like breakfast, we make sure that you can't ask for breakfast reimbursement if the hotel has breakfast, right? That's included within your say. Effectively, the district has already paid for breakfast.
Right. Or if the conference is providing it.
Right.
Correct, or if the conference is providing, right. Yeah, you should not, and that plays into whether or not how your, with the per diem is set up, because sometimes, it just depends on how we're doing that part of it. But yeah, generally, you guys don't have, you have a couple conferences a year, and then coming up to Tallahassee is the extent of it. And so I think that we would have to deal with setting up corporate accounts with hotels and airlines, and there's just not enough travel to justify that.
Well, yeah, I agree, but I think maybe there ought to be a sentence in here that saying we acknowledge that and, the employees can utilize that for themselves, right?
Just to remove ambiguity.
Right, that's my thought of that.
Okay.
There's already something here about, meals are not included in meetings, programs, that type of thing, so that's addressed.
Right.
There is for.
Okay, we can add that.
If it's included with the meetings, but not if the hotel offers breakfast.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
So
You can
if
add
we're,
that.
yeah, we'll have to add that. Got it.
Now, we're not gonna have to institute breakfast police or anything, right? We're just gonna allow the
Breakfast police.
attendee to
That's what I want.
be on their best behavior and be honest.
For you, Randy, I think you'll need to skip it.
So one item I do want to draw your attention to is the use of district vehicles versus personal vehicles. This language is new and we really need to flesh out so that we have the appropriate direction for the staff. In the language, and Lindsay, Jose, you guys chime in as you need to, please. for staff of the district, if a vehicle is available, they need to be using a district vehicle for all district-related travel. That includes any day-to-day activities, if we need to pick up parts from the parts store or go to a meeting during the workday from here, but also, and as this particular policy is related to travel. So if an employee decides for pure convenience that they do not wish to take a district vehicle to a district-sponsored training or travel event, then they assume all their own liability, they are not on work hours during travel,
No
I'm sorry.
reimbursement for mileage.
No
like,
reimbursement for
compensation of any
mileage.
kind.
Thank you, Lindsay. So this is new. We really, while we strongly encourage staff to take district vehicles, there have been exceptions to that in the past. So we want to make sure that it's clear what the expectation is if that happens in the future.
So the balance of that, I don't know where we're headed. I certainly wouldn't want to see us purchase more vehicles to accommodate this policy. It is so inexpensive to reimburse somebody to go out, and I'm not suggesting that happens. I tend to agree with the policy, but on the other hand, I mean, if you look at Fortune 500s, Duke Energy, others, that have vehicles, work vehicles, as we do for individuals, but let's say somebody's going to the University of Florida, for instance, and we have multiple people going, I just would hate to see us have to get a vehicle that sits here idle most of the year so we can accommodate this policy.
So this policy would not require us to purchase any additional vehicles. As we operate now, when we travel with more than one person going to event, we try to carpool as much as possible, unless the start and end times are different for the individual employees that are attending the meetings. So we do very strongly encourage carpooling wherever we can.
Right.
But in addition to that, because we did not purchase the new vehicles that we had intended to, or we will not be, because we cut those in the budget.
Right, we're
we have
purchasing no
to-
vehicles.
Correct.
Okay?
What we're doing is reallocating some of the fleet, repurposing to different positions, different departments, and we have a sign-out system in place so that we know ahead of time when travel will be occurring, most travel. There are a few exceptions to that, but in the event that something is last minute, we'll deal with that as a one-off situation. But we do have in place a process to reserve and sign out vehicles for those who will need to be traveling. So we'll be implementing that if we move forward in approving this policy. And so we don't anticipate that's going to be a problem. Most of the people who travel already have a district vehicle assigned to them for the workday. And so where that is not the case, then we'll utilize the reservation and sign out policy.
Okay, very good.
Well, okay, so a couple of comments on this. If for whatever reason an employee comes to you and it needs to be pre-authorized to use their personal vehicle. So I'd like to hear from Laura whether or not, first off, the policy doesn't say that they're not gonna be reimbursed. So if you're gonna take that position, you need to add that. But I question whether or not you can do that legally. If you're gonna allow them to use their personal vehicle, I think that you need to reimburse them for mileage. That's number one. Number two, for the commissioners, I don't think it's appropriate that we drive any of the district's vehicles. But I also think that if we're traveling on district business, we should be reimbursed for mileage.
Okay, so before I turn that over to Ms. Donaldson for her input, the intent is for district staff traveling, so we can distinguish, that it's not for elected officials, because.
Okay, but the
if-
reason I bring that up, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the policy does mention elected officials. So it makes me think that it applies to us as well, which it should. I mean, we need to be.
That
you
was
know,
our original intent, but
Yeah.
after further discussion with legal, in which I'll let her speak in just a moment, but we can carve that piece out and, say this is for staff, with the exception of elected officials for that, but I'll turn it over to Ms.
I wanna
Donaldson
say
now.
one thing real quick.
I'm sorry.
In terms of this particular policy, it is referenced about vehicle use, but there is a much more in-depth, vehicle use policy, district vehicle use policy that gets into all of that detail. So if it's a matter of just rewording or even removing it from that particular policy, we can. But I just wanted to put that out there that we'll get to it, there's a much more in-depth.
Okay.
That
And this
has
one's
multiple
travel
options. So this
specific.
is just travel expenses specific, this one,
Travel expenses,
yeah,
Well, and that's really gonna apply to the three of us.
right.
yeah.
I mean, you know, if I have to go to Dade City to attend a meeting or something, you know,
Yeah.
I for one am not gonna ask for reimbursement for that, but, you know, I'm not gonna be here forever.
Okay.
Ms. Donaldson, did you want to add, any comments related to Commissioner Cox's statements?
No, I think that Commissioner Cox, I mean, we can clarify this section to be in conformance with the vehicle use section, because the intent is really for district staff, not for commissioners on that. Really, the question about the legal not to reimburse, the district's preference and intent is that district vehicles be used for district purposes. And if a staff member wants to take their personal car, mileage, I think it's up to like 75 cents a mile. And they may be doing that because they are going to the conference and then they're going somewhere else for a couple days after that. The district potentially, like, we need to kind of limit the liability related to, like, we don't know if their car is being maintained and those type of things. And so it really is, we're trying to just create a clear line. Either you use a district vehicle, this is for staff, you use a district vehicle and then everything's covered. Or if you use your own personal vehicle, because you're making that personal choice that you want to use your vehicle, then we are, shifting the liability and the cost associated with that to the employee.
You know, but that's the reason why they get reimbursed the IRS limit for mileage.
Right. But we don't actually want them to be driving their vehicle. I mean, the easiest way is to say you can't drive, for staff, you can't drive your personal vehicle, but this was an attempt to try to create some flexibility without incurring costs. Because with how high mileage is now, people like, and this is, I'm not saying district employees, your district employees, but people like to drive their own cars because of the high IRS reimbursement rate right now. I think, like I said, it's high. It's not like in the old days where it was like 25 cents a mile.
Well,
But I can look into that and then give some options to staff that will be presented to the board at the board meeting.
I think it's important to remember too the liability. If something happens to an employee that we're reimbursing for mileage, and Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we're reimbursing them in any capacity in their personal vehicle, our insurance isn't gonna cover them from a workman's comp standpoint, from a district, the car itself, so that's gonna go onto their insurance. Ultimately, their insurance would likely deny because they were traveling for work. So it could get messy, and it's just not something that the district was really thinking that we should be engaging in. It's just easier to say, this is it. So the liability side is where a lot of these policies are being driven, and you'll see as we get through them.
And one that ties into this, which is also further down in this policy, is family members in district vehicles. So liability-wise, it is not advised that we allow non-district employees to be riding in district vehicles, because they will not be covered under our liability insurance if something were to happen to them. So,
Right, well, okay, so yeah, with that, that's a really big issue. There's a couple components with it. There's a liability issue. The district, although we can say the district wouldn't be liable, the district's gonna get sued. If you have employees or family members in a district vehicle. Two, there raises some ethical issues as well related to that. And basically using government resources for personal purposes. So it's just better not to let family members or friends be in district vehicles.
and so this is the reason in the past where employees have elected to drive their personal vehicle, because they wanted to bring, you know, to whatever the event is. I mean, even participating in the parades, you know, coming to the event in a district vehicle or being on the actual float in the parade. But these are the things that we need to be cognizant of. The event is different because we can get a special rider for that event, so that's separate. But travel to that event, for instance, or travel to a conference, and that's where in the past employees have said, no, I'd like to bring a personal vehicle because, you know, I'm bringing my whatever family member.
Well, I mean, I hate us to be so restrictive that just common decency gets overridden by trying to protect ourselves from every damn thing.
But I think in the private sector, that makes perfect sense, but I think in government, it's slightly different, where you have to be a little bit more cognizant of, these are government things, these are the vehicles, this is paid for by the taxpayer, so I just think we have to be good stewards in that way to think of it from that perspective. Cause
So
I'm
what do-
always of the private, and I have to shift my focus all the time. to
Oh, yeah,
say
I
it's
do
not-
too.
Not the same, which
I
is
do
hard.
too, but I'm, trying to think, well, what's the county's policy? I mean, I don't know what it is today, but I know the sheriff's policy used to be that the deputies could, maybe, and we have a deputy in the room, maybe he can say, but that they used to be able to take home their vehicle and then use it for personal usage along with transporting. That's not anymore? Okay, it used to be, but, I'm just curious, maybe
Sure.
what
No,
other
but
entities do.
Going to the family members or girlfriend, whatever, riding, I can tell you a story about a special agent that got in a car accident and had difficulty explaining why the passenger side airbag had lipstick all over it. So
Yeah.
that's something, if you just don't
Yeah.
entertain it, you don't do
Right,
it,
that's
then
exactly where we're going.
you don't have a problem.
Yeah.
Well, then it's
A lot
the
of-
mitigation of risk, right? I mean,
I
in that,
understand.
in that case, that passenger could have sued. And so you were trying to prevent that from happening, or trying to protect the district. And without a policy in place, we don't have the ability to do that.
So let's say we're going to the Kumquat Festival, and another family member volunteered, and we thought it's a good idea that they come along, ride on the float, or whatever it might be. So we're gonna tell them what now? We're gonna tell them, okay,
Meet
meet
us
me there?
there.
Yes.
I say, yeah, I'm with Cox on this side. I think this is really getting restricted due to attorneys in the state.
There needs to be a little common sense here. I mean, so I would just ask that you go back and revisit that and compare it to what other entities are doing. If you're trying to protect yourself from getting sued, you might as well just close up shop and go home, because you get sued for any damn thing.
Exactly.
I mean, if you make me ride in a vehicle that maybe has a lesser crash rating than my vehicle, and I get into an accident, I get hurt, well, I should have been in my vehicle because I've been safer. You can start playing these things out. It is what it is, and at the end of the day, that's one of the reasons why we have insurance.
Well, you know, our role in this is to provide you with
Yeah.
the options for consideration. It's three of you have to make the decision on what you wanna move forward in policy and what level of risk we are willing to take. So yes, everything has risk, and it's a balance of what risk is suitable for our operation and our needs.
And just keep in mind that these policies were created with the guidance of our insurance broker agents and our lawyer. So it's not that we are not taking everything into account, but in order to minimize the risk for the district, these are some measures that we have to take.
And I think where you can minimize risk, you should.
Correct. This is not, I mean,
But I think that guidelines are necessary and appropriate, with the ability for the director to take out individual cases. There's not gonna be many of them, but certainly the Kumquat Festival will be one of them. You know, the reality is, when it's within our county, there's really virtually no expenses to the district anyway. You know, that's not where the expenses are. The expenses, you know, are outside this county.
I mean, Nick worked in Hillsborough, and they were mandated to go to the district in Hillsborough and take a public car. They didn't have a choice. It was either that or you don't attend.
He worked under the BOCC quite differently.
Correct, but we're using that as a guide too, right? It could be that extreme.
Yeah, well, we're not gonna go there.
And she still has the executive director still has the authority to allow it, but just as a standard. You know, we don't wanna manage to the exception, we wanna manage to a standard. So the standard is X,
Yeah,
and then,
I
and then
agree
if
with
there
that.
situations come up and it's more sensible or more economical or whatever the reason is, then we go that route. But I think it was very vague before, and it's just open to interpretation, as a lot of our policies were, and it's just not, it's not easy to manage that. And it's also confusing for employees, you know, what is the rule? You'll hear that a lot, you know, prior policies, so, or whatever that's worth.
And on the financial side, if I'm short $400 on the month, I'll just take my car to Miami and come back, right? I mean, it happens, right? People might use that not as an excuse but as a
Well,
reason.
That's not
But-
gonna happen.
and-
Just like the comment about the 70 cents a mile, that's what the IRS rate is, that's what it costs to run a car this day and age. It's not a high cost, it's a low cost to us. That's inexpensive versus driving a company vehicle.
I believe that's a
Imagine
higher
how much
cost
these
than
things cost.
fuel,
What?
than fuel in the vehicle, it's a
But there's
higher
more to
cost than
fuel, there's more than just
Yeah.
fuel, there's the depreciation of the vehicle by putting mileage on it, the fuel, you know, if it's a
Insurance.
combustion engine, you know, there's maintenance, there's tires, I mean, there's more
Sure.
to it than that, and, you know, just because they take a district vehicle doesn't mean that there's not a cost to the district, because the same thing applies, there's fuel and wear and
Okay.
tear and tires and, you know, depreciation,
Familiarity with the vehicle.
yeah, I
That's a
mean, it
big
just
one.
all, I
But-
mean, I'm okay with the way this is written, I just, the couple of exceptions that I, you know, said earlier, I just want you to revisit it, right, because doesn't say in here that you're not gonna reimburse them for mileage, so, you know, I believe that you have to, in my opinion.
Is that the consensus of the board? Because we need direction.
Yeah,
You can't just-
I'm in agreement with that, and I think the policy is okay with a little refinement, as long as you have the ability to look at the situation, you know, if there's a special exception to it.
Any input on that, Randy?
Again, as long as it's not a family member riding around in the government vehicle, you know, I don't see any need for that. Even if you're going to the Kumquat Festival, you're not gonna have your wife in the truck with you. She can drive separate or carpool with someone else. I think you open Pandora's box and the liability to the district is unwelcomed. You know, I came from the federal government where we're very strict about those things, so we had home-to-work use for government vehicles for our cruisers, and that's really about it. You get caught going to a bar or something like that, you're done. I mean, that's, and the thing is, I know there's some history with the district of vehicles found in nefarious places, I'll leave it at that. So, let's not open the door to that, let's just, okay, it's, you know, district folks, either ride in the government-provided vehicle or district vehicle, or, you know, take your own personal vehicle, you know, and that's on you. Do we open it up to mileage for that person? If Agna and Maria wanted to ride somewhere and together in their own car and they were hanging out for the weekend after or whatever, I don't know what the right answer is. I would default to your judgment on that.
I think we should also mention that if we pay for mileage, technically they're being employed, so now it opens up to workman's comp. It's not just the mileage, it's a whole slew of other things that
Well,
would
just the
happen.
fact that it doesn't matter what vehicle they're in. I mean, if they're traveling to an event that is district business, you're not gonna avoid that because they're in the district vehicle.
Correct, during regular work hours, yes, absolutely, right? I mean-
It doesn't matter if you're traveling to Tallahassee to talk to the legislators and you know, you leave at 2 AM so you can get there by 6. I mean, you know, there's a but-for test. But for me having to go to this meeting because of the district. It's district business.
Right.
So, and the policy does allow for family members and spouses to travel.
But not in a district vehicle.
Yeah. So right now,
But it doesn't say that, does it?
I think it does in our general vehicle policy. This is,
Okay,
again, this
okay,
is the
okay.
expenses related to travel. So
But
it's all
maybe
tied
this
together,
needs to
so-
be incorporated into one policy.
I mean, we
And
can
the other
skip to
policy
that,
has
and we
a,
can make sure that we're covering those things.
I don't think you should have two different things that talks about vehicle usage. It all
Yeah,
be
it could
in
just be
one.
wording, or we can, I mean,
Probably all be
I'm
in
open
one.
to either, like removing, this needs to be a standalone policy, the travel expenses versus the use of a district vehicle, cause that's way more in-depth, the use of the district vehicle.
You could strip out the vehicle issues and put it over in the
Yes,
vehicle
that's-
policy.
yes.
That's where they are.
Yeah.
Is what we're saying.
Well,
He's saying remove it from this,
Yeah,
just
remove
these
it.
couple
Yeah.
bottom paragraphs in terms of,
yeah,
the use of the vehicle.
Okay.
The
so-
traveling with family members would still remain in this policy.
yeah, basically from where it says use of district vehicles, that and down needs to be put into the policy.
Okay, we can certainly move those, but I would like clarification on if we have a consensus on these two particular items. Non-district employees in a district vehicle, are you saying you're allowing it or not allowing it?
I'm not for it.
So, non-district employee in a district vehicle.
Correct.
I'm confused. On one hand, we're telling people, we're forcing them to make sure they go in district vehicles. And on the other hand, we're saying, no, we don't want you to. Which one is it?
we don't want family members in a district vehicle, because there's no coverage there. That is a very big exposure for the district. So the question is, do the three of you want to allow family members in a district vehicle or not?
No. Not only no, but help. How's that?
All right, on that particular point, I'll agree with you.
Well, thank you.
Okay. So-
Okay.
So now you have a consensus.
Okay, so then that language, which is actually in the vehicle policy, will remain as written, that we're not allowing family members or non-district employees in district vehicles, so then.
Okay, but now I'm gonna throw out
So-
scenarios to you. Okay, so let's say you have, a non-district employee come here, and you say, you know what, we need to go out
Or a
and
vendor.
take a look at this trap, for whatever reason. And you say, I'll drive, let's go. Does that happen?
It has happened in the past.
Okay, so.
And that's why in the policy, we built in for those exceptions. Again, we're not trying to create a policy for the exceptions, but, you know, what our normal
But when you say
operation-
non-district employee cannot go in a district vehicle,
Right, so we would strongly encourage that individual to drive themselves, or if that can't happen, then if the board chose to allow it, there could be, the ability for me to give exception as needed. And so we just need to define what that is going to look like, so that I have the appropriate guidance on what the board
I'm
is
okay
looking
with
at.
granting you the authority to give exceptions.
But again, it's the level of risk we wanna take.
Well-
Do we, that vendor or that, college student who comes to go visit something in the field, they would not be covered under district liability insurance, workers' comp, I mean, none of that, so the potential is that they could sue the district if something were to happen, so it's, what level of exposure do you want to allow?
I want to minimize it, but I'd leave it at your discretion, because I trust you.
there needs to be some common sense here. You know, you're not gonna write a policy to protect against everything.
No, absolutely not. And so that's why you three set
Right,
policy,
and-
so you need to give us the level that you're
And
willing
you
to
can what if it to
allow.
death, but yes, we need to have something. And again, I would defer to your judgment on these things. You're here, you're interacting with these people, you know, the employees. They're not gonna go take a ride off to the casino or something. They're doing what's right. So. And for convenience and, again, I don't wanna be sued. But
Living
we
in
can-
on state for that.
Well, and that's why we're having this
Yeah,
conversation, because
exactly.
it does happen so
Our
frequently.
borders are open.
So,
They're closed now.
okay, so we'll leave some flexibility to allow for certain circumstances under director authorization. So back to traveling with families. So as the policy would be written, that would be where an employee would have to say, I'm not taking the district vehicle because family is traveling with me, or I want to extend the trip, I'm gonna stay 3 days and do what I want off district time, off district dime. And so, is that the position of the board, that we're going to continue to allow that if they choose to take their personal vehicle? And then the question is, are we reimbursing for mileage under that circumstance?
And currently, we do, correct?
No.
We don't reimburse for mileage if you take a personal vehicle,
If you take a personal vehicle, you do not get reimbursed for mileage.
other than,
If there's a district vehicle available and you choose because.
and other
for
than
whatever reason.
commissioners.
Other than commissioners, correct.
So if you, Executive Director Rogers, wanted to go to a conference and bring your family with you, you wouldn't be bringing them in a government or district vehicle, sorry.
Correct.
You'd be taking your personal vehicle, so are you entitled to mileage?
That's the question.
And what is your answer?
I think that at that point, I would be choosing out of convenience and my own personal preference to allow my family to join me on the travel, and so that I would not get reimbursed for the trip, for the mileage, excuse me.
I mean, I don't know that, I think that's a question for Laura, if that's legal or not, because, you know,
Is she back on yet?
the travel to the meeting is district business. And again, it costs the district money if you take a district vehicle. So I just believe it's a wash. So, I mean, I think that from here to the meeting, yes, but from the meeting to wherever you're going, no.
Unless it's from the meeting on your return, if you decide, well, we're having a convention or a meeting at Lee County Mosquito Control, I'm taking my family with me, I get mileage down to Lee County, we're gonna continue on to Key West, and then return on at whatever date after, then you would get return mileage from Lee County Mosquito back. That's fair. That's what we do in the federal government. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just,
yeah, so to and
that's
from,
fair and equitable.
and I would say that would be fine for the district employee as well, you know? And you're selecting who goes and who doesn't go or attend these conventions, so.
You could develop a waiver that they acknowledge, you know, that they're taking the risk and they're only being reimbursed for mileage to and from the official point. You know, I mean, that may be good practice.
So unfortunately, it's not. That's what we were
Okay.
doing for the liability concern. But
Mhm.
after further discussion with our liability and district council, they said the waiver doesn't actually protect the district.
Really?
Yes. So
Okay.
that is, unfortunately, doesn't.
Sounded good on paper.
It did, and we were operating that way for quite some time.
Okay. Then the lawyers got involved.
Okay, she's back now. So if you want to post your question again regarding are we legally required to pay for mileage if we're sending them to the training?
Well, I mean, I think that's, yes, I think that's a question, whether or not we're legally required to do it. But I also think it's the right thing to do.
Okay, Ms. Donaldson, can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry, I could not log back in through my phone. I had to run back to my office to get in on my computer.
Okay, we appreciate you coming back in. So we are actually still talking about the use of district vehicles and the expense related to that when traveling. So the question from the board is now, are we legally required, and then we'll get to what the board wants to do, but are we legally required to pay for mileage if the district is sending staff to conference, training, whatever it is, for official district business? And they choose, because they want to bring their family, or they want to extend their stay or go elsewhere while they're in the area, to choose to drive their personal vehicle. Are we required to pay them mileage?
So I would say by policy, I don't believe we legally have to, because you're telling them you want them to take a district vehicle, and they are making the decision that they do not want to take the district vehicle. But I can do research on that and get back to you.
Okay,
Move on.
okay.
I think if we had no district vehicle and we forced them to use their personal vehicle to get there, it's a different conversation.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, there's no
Completely.
question.
But if
Yeah.
we have a
I agree with
vehicle,
that.
then
Yeah.
then let's
You only
go.
have X number of vehicles, so
Correct.
if we're using them for the job and don't have them available for a conference.
But quite often, multiple people go to the same conference,
Sure.
and then that, we don't have a ton of conference, you know, we're not doing a ton
Yeah.
of travel. So ultimately, we feel very strongly that we'll have a vehicle available.
And in the policy says if there is no district vehicle available, then it changes.
Okay, other items on this particular policy, Lindsay, am I missing?
I don't think so, those were the big ones on this, personal, occupant, like, family in the car.
Okay.
And I do just wanna say, and I apologize, I had to step out for that meeting, and then I couldn't get back in. You know, if a district is sending 4 people to a conference and they all go in a district vehicle, that's just the cost of one vehicle, but if they all choose to take their individual cars, I mean, that's 4 different cars going that the district would be reimbursing. But I'll get that legal research and get back to you before the board meeting.
Very
Laura,
good.
what happens if employee takes a district vehicle to a 2-hour training? After hours, does a district employee gotta be on standby in case the vehicle breaks down? Do we have to issue them a credit card if the vehicle breaks down to pay for services? What happens in that situation?
If they're in a district vehicle,
Yeah,
or if they're in a personal vehicle?
district vehicle.
Why wouldn't it be the same as every day that we have now?
Yeah.
What's
Because we're
different?
traveling for work.
Yeah, we travel for work.
So
every day.
if I put you in a district vehicle to go to Tallahassee,
Right.
and then it's 9 o'clock at night, and you break down, who are you calling?
Same people you call,
And you're
If
gonna
you
pay
were
for it out of your
Pasco County.
pocket and get reimbursement?
reimbursement.
Do you
If
not?
you gotta get a tow truck traveling to Tallahassee, how do you pay for it?
Well, don't we have
So I would say the district credit card.
relationships set up with vendors? Oh, I-
Not for that.
And not everybody has a credit card.
No.
And not every
And not
vehicle
up
has a
the
credit
area.
card assigned to it?
So I'm with Randy, I was in the Air Force, the same thing. We had a travel day on the front end, travel day on the back end. If you're in a GOV, every GOV had a credit card in case something.
GOV is a what now?
Government
vehicle, sorry.
Okay.
So a district vehicle, every vehicle had a credit card in it for that purpose, right?
I see.
Because you're working to go to a place that your work is sending you to. So you can't expect an employee to drive somewhere, break down, bust out their debit card, pay for all the services needed to go wherever he or she is going, and then get reimbursed on the back end.
That's
Some
good.
people live paycheck to
That's a
paycheck,
good
and
point.
just
We
what
already
they're
have-
gonna have that one.
Yeah, that's a good point, I agree with you, we got P cards.
And if you're on the road, you can get gas using that credit card assigned to the
Right.
vehicle. You can replace the tire or have it towed or.
But I have a question, I mean, generally, doesn't someone have a credit card because they're having to pay for the hotel room that's going in the district vehicle?
No,
Not all,
everybody.
not all of them. So
Okay.
we have a handful of district employees that have purchasing cards assigned to them, but not all who travel. And now the frequency at which those individuals travel is lesser versus those who are issued purchasing cards. But it does happen on occasion.
And in that situation, do they just pay for it and then seek reimbursement from the district?
That's what I did.
Yep. If they have the means to pay for it upfront, yes. I mean, we haven't
It's never
had a
happened.
situation
Right.
where that's been a problem. This is a hypothetical, if,
I mean, there's a lot of
If
hypotheticals,
something were
but
to
if we're gonna
happen.
go down that road of this and that, then
Yeah.
that's one thing that needs to be brought up. If they can't afford to pay for them breaking down, what are we gonna
I mean,
do?
I would just say giving everyone a P card has its own major risk. And and so I think that maybe we need to I'd recommend let staff have a kind of internal conversation, and then we come back to the board meeting
Yeah.
with a
You know, and
idea.
it's something like
on
that,
how to
I
deal with
just
that.
think that, you know, they make a phone call
To a
to
supervisor.
the supervisor and, you know, Adrian calls in her credit card or something of that nature. I mean,
Yeah.
Are you
Same-
saying
same
that
as we
P
do every day.
cards should be assigned to each vehicle?
No,
like
I'm
we
not
have?
saying that,
Okay.
I'm more along the lines of Mr. Cox and
Mhm.
Mr. Abbott about, reimbursing people to drive somewhere, right?
Yeah.
If they wanna drive somewhere and we're reimbursing them, like you said, Cox, it's gonna be a wash in some, I mean, CJ can dial in a 2-hour trip to wherever with gas. He's got his formula for that compared to what we pay somebody to drive, but Jose drives to somewhere, as he breaks down in his car, he's responsible for taking his car, because he took his car, right? We're just paying him for mileage, which all of that maintenance is included in that 75 cents. Jose decided to do that. All
That's on
right,
him.
good,
Yeah.
we're gonna pay you for your travel, but if you break down, you get a flat, that's on you.
Well, I mean, while money is important, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
there's the liability side is more where this was driven from.
Yeah.
You know, how protected are we, how protected are they? Knowing likely if they're being compensated, asked to be somewhere from the district, then like where does that liability stop?
What's gonna,
It ultimately will land back on the district, I feel like no matter what.
But this is the same, like Commissioner Cox said, I mean, we have to drive those 2 hours to wherever we're going regardless, whatever vehicle we're in. We can take a flight to Lee County if we want to, like, where does it stop? Like, we have to go there, like, I need to be there at 7 o'clock.
Just the
This
only
day.
difference is
But
the
you
district
don't have
vehicle
to
versus
take your personal
That's
car.
the only difference.
You don't, but if you choose to, we reimburse you for mileage, that's 75 cents, and then
I think, Laura, I think that's the ultimate question is, if we are reimbursing for mileage, does that then determine that they're being compensated or on the clock? And if so, then that's when our workman's comp has to be engaged.
Yes, it would be,
So-
you're reimbursing them for
That's right.
mileage. Yeah.
and that's the
But
whole.
we're gonna be
I mean,
on the clock in the
I have to
government
speak
vehicle.
up here because if you are requiring someone to be somewhere,
Confusing at all.
they're on the clock.
You're on the clock in a government vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
don't,
the same exact thing.
I mean, but, you know, but for that meeting, I didn't have to be out there driving.
Correct, so the main difference here is, let's say I'm driving my personal car for a meeting somewhere, I get into a car accident, my personal insurance is gonna say you were working. The insurance, our policy doesn't cover that, employee has no insurance, he's suing. I mean,
But you
that-
chose to do that.
Correct, but then it doesn't matter what, we're saying it's a work-related,
No, it doesn't.
Travel.
You chose to take your car.
But if we're
We have a
compensating them.
vehicle.
but if we're
We have a
compensating.
vehicle for you to take, Jose.
Correct, but what I'm saying is, if I get into a car accident and you give me mileage, that is a work travel related, my personal insurance is not gonna cover that.
Listen, you gotta take. take
You
it
know,
back.
I don't know that that's, I don't know that I agree with that at all.
That is 100% true.
See, you were getting into areas that we don't have expertise in.
No, but
That's
we have been
exactly-
advised by
I
our
mean-
liability.
We've done the
Advised
research, I'm
by
not just
our
speaking.
liability is why this is coming up, because we've had those conversations with.
Well, anyway, the private sector.
Can I just say, no matter what happens, regardless of the scenario, the district will be sued, no matter what. If they're in a district vehicle, if they're in a personal vehicle, no matter what, the district will be sued, because the district has the deeper pockets. So, I mean, all we're trying to do is put some guardrails in, both from ensuring that we know what the costs are gonna be, put some limitations in. I do think, there are issues raised with having people in the vehicle. I mean, I have some clients who just say, you can't drive your personal vehicle, and then it never becomes an issue, and they have to take a district vehicle, no matter what, and then, but let me look at the one issue, and then we'll come back with some refined language for the board to look at the board meeting.
Laura,
Thank you.
why do we make the assumption that people are going to be sued? Don't things get worked out in this state anymore, or is it a sue every time?
Oh, it's sued every time.
You sue every
Well, think
time?
about
Of course.
it. They may not sue, what they'll do is they'll give you a draft complaint that they're gonna file, and then they will say, hey, we're gonna file this if you don't pay us X amount of money, and then you get with your insurance company, and then the insurance company, like, there's a whole discussion, but yeah, generally, they threaten to sue you, and then oftentimes your insurance company will try to settle it, potentially, if they feel like there's any liability, before it gets actually filed. So it may not result in a lawsuit being filed, but yeah, I do think
So you're telling me every time we get in an accident, whether it's on government business or private, that we're going to get sued? Threatened to be sued?
I think if we deny coverage, yeah, I do think that we would be sued.
Pound
Or-
law, that's all.
And we have received letters, just as she described.
Of course you
Oh, I know. More than
yeah, pound law, that's all.
I'll ask backwards and they just become.
So we will come back to the board on that issue. Ready to go to the next?
Yes, please.
Okay. Standards of conduct, 5.5. Any issues with the newly proposed language there?
It seems like it's common sense to me.
That's the goal. The goal was not to make it
Yeah.
overly complex.
Well,
It's
that last
something
one
for
sure ended
the
up that way.
employees to well, and that's why
I know,
it's
I
so
see.
confusing, because we don't have the guidance.
Okay.
And it's too open to interpretation. That's why we're here.
We have to cover.
Lindsay, remind me, was there anything in this that I needed to specifically call out?
Which one are we on? Standard?
Standards of conduct?
No, it just, this one gets a little bit more, because we have a standards of conduct from before. This one's just a little bit reworded, I guess, but I think what's more important, the Florida ethics law compliance has been added to the bottom. And then also just, I would say, reviewing the, where it says employees shall and employees shall not, just reading through those, making sure that we agree with all of them that are in there. Didn't really change, too many, but I also wanna make sure that we, agree these are the standards of conduct for our employees, both will and will not.
I don't know.
Okay with it?
Any further discussion on that item? Okay.
Nope.
Next, 5.8, conflict resolution. We did have a grievance policy in place prior. This refines that a little bit.
Most notably, it is no longer referred to as grievance in any kind. Also, there was a step in here that allowed for employees to appeal to the board, appeal a decision that was made internally to the board. That has been removed, on legal counsel's advice.
Very glad to see that removed.
Yeah. That's really about it. Most of the wording stayed the same. Those would be the two big takeaways.
Move on down the road.
No further
Moving on up.
discussion? Okay. Number 9, I'm sorry, 5.9, excuse me. Consensual relationship policy. Again, changing the name from the former policy entitled Workplace Social Romantic Relationships, and then just further refines that.
Good to me.
I agree.
Okay. Next is 6.10, personal cell phone, mobile device use.
Have anything?
Anything to call out there, Lindsay?
I'm looking. No, management responsibility was added in. pretty much it. I'd still read through it, or if you haven't already, just to make sure you agree with everything. In terms of, go ahead.
Okay.
This is personal phone use, so just cautioning employees, if you use personal phone for district business, you could be subject to public records. We do provide, I would say, Edwin, you might have to help me with this, but for full-time staff, there is an option to have a district-provided cell phone.
The device.
Device, yes, sorry, tablet or phone.
Not everyone has cell phone, depending on the position.
Yes?
Yes.
And so yes, all official district business is supposed to be done on the district issued device. And if they choose not to do that, then as Lindsay stated, they would be subject to public record.
Well, I do have one question on that. So, using a device while driving, Laura, this question for you. Didn't the legislature last session, basically prohibit any type of use inside a vehicle?
So the hands-free bill died,
Oh, it did?
and that was
Okay.
Senator Gall's bill, yeah. And this is really, we're not trying to regulate people outside of working hours, but if we just wanna make sure that they understand that if they're driving during working hours, so basically for work, they can't be on their personal cell phone because that creates, that's distracted driving and could increase the chances of an accident. Yeah, I think right now you just can't hold your phone when you're driving through a school zone.
Okay.
I thought the texting law passed though.
You can't text,
Oh, right,
but
okay.
you can still hold your phone while you drive.
I see,
Yeah, you can't text while you drive,
okay.
but you can still hold your phone. And the law that's trying to get passed is like you literally cannot be touching your phone at all.
Okay, all right. I'm good.
And like I said, this is not regulating outside of working hours. This is just trying to limit when they're driving a district vehicle. Or their own.
Okay.
Okay.
Next is 6.17, so this is where it further discusses the use of personal vehicle.
Can we take a 5-minute break before we get into that?
I'm game.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay. Break granted.
Thank you.
For everybody.
Thank you.
So, and we're underway now. Go ahead. What would you like to bring up next, Director Rogers?
So we can circle back, this next one in your folder is for the authorization for use of personal vehicles, 6.17. So this is where some of the other items that we're referencing when we talk about the travel expenses lies. So it does say employees not permitted to use their personal vehicle to conduct PCMCD related tasks. And then of course you can read on from there.
So, the travel stuff needs to be incorporated in this, just to
Yep, so we
restate that.
can relocate that, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So on the second page, so it's talking, travel to conferences, training and events, right? So all that's pretty clear what it says here, but then it goes on to say exception for approval for approved after-hours community outreach or special events, employees may choose to drive their personal vehicle to the location. Such cases, travel to and from the event is considered voluntary and off the clock. No mileage reimbursement or compensation time will be provided for this travel. I just want to ask you, is that legal? I don't need the answer now, I just want you to, Laura, to review it.
So I think that's the same question that
Yeah,
she was gonna be
it's-
looking at
right.
from the travel expense. It's all, so we can follow up on that. So again.
Generally speaking, those events are voluntary, so you're not required by the district to go. If we had a required event, again, different conversation, but we're talking about parades or, we do a lot of events on the weekends, people drive to the events to work the booth. When they're there, working the booth, fine, they're on district time, but driving to there and back home, no.
Okay.
That's what that's.
I'm asking just that to be.
For sure,
I don't
yeah.
have an issue with it, I just want to make sure that that's legal. And then the other thing I have, so under driver requirements, do we require employees to take a driving course?
Not to my knowledge.
So the reason I ask that is my wife has a company-issued vehicle, that's part of her compensation package, is that vehicle, and they pay for gas, insurance, I'm allowed to drive it anytime I want to, but she has to take a driving course.
So we do not require employees to take a driving course. However, we do have annually, biannually, we do a defensive driving training for the staff.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking, yeah.
And
Motor vehicle checks.
depending,
That's-
we also track driver's licenses, make sure they're still valid. We also, in addition to that, for anyone driving trailers or towing equipment,
The endorsements or.
we don't require endorsements, no, but we train them internally
Oh, okay.
before they leave the lot to make sure that, you know, we're comfortable with them driving and they're comfortable towing. And so we do some internal training, but we do not send anyone to take a driving course.
Well, you're doing something defensively, right? So that's sort of what I was thinking. My next question is are they required to do that prior to, you know, being put into a vehicle and off they go?
For the defensive driving,
Yeah.
we don't do that for new hires in particular. We do it just when we do all staff training.
Just do it all at one time?
So we do it all at one
Okay.
time, but that's something that we could start doing for new hires. I think that's a good suggestion.
Does our insurance require us to do any defensive driving or stuff of the employees?
Require, no, but I don't remember if we get a discount for doing the defensive driving courses or not.
I'm not sure, but I know we're not required.
So with the new insurance too, I'm not sure
Okay.
either. So we do it regardless of whether or not we get a discount, but we can't, we'll,
I was just
We'll
curious.
confirm
that's all. Yeah. Do we, and excuse me if I missed it, do we have anything that obligates an employee to report if they've had a DUI or?
yeah.
Okay, it isn't there, okay.
So yes, this language is stronger, I think, that would require the employee to notify us. And then we do, not on a frequent basis, but periodically we run checks on driver's licenses.
Okay.
Yeah, it's under the driver requirements,
Okay.
third bullet.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
Okay. Good.
Sorry, I was gonna say, the driver's license issue is a huge issue. It's shocking how many people get their license suspended for failure to have insurance. I had one client, I mean, it's pretty shocking, and in fact, they're doing pulls every quarter in an effort to try to catch it. It was dealing with a city fire service, issue not too long ago where a major accident occurred with a train, and it appeared as though the driver of the fire apparatus did not have a valid driver's license because it had been suspended for insurance purposes. And so it is advisable to pull those driver's records. Very easy for you to check for yourself, but it is advisable to do that because obviously if we're letting them drive district vehicles, we need to make sure that they have valid driver's licenses.
And do we have a statement on that, or do we are we required to state that the district can pull driver's license checks at any time?
I think I do.
I
somewhere.
feel
Well, the
like
last
I think
bullet
there
item
is something
says
in there.
consent to,
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
okay,
I get the policies.
We do have it, okay.
Mixed up in my.
yep. I know, that's what the perfect, our
There's a
old
lot.
versus our new policy.
right? We beat that one to death.
Okay,
Jose.
I'm just gonna put a ring in the middle.
6.18, off to be used the district property or premises. So we turn to the next page.
Straightforward.
We don't currently operate under that, so that is a change, if you desire it to be.
Which one are you on, Adrian?
6.18. I mean, to some extent, not entirely, but.
And I'll pop in, I mean, this change is in part because, you know, that there are ethical requirements related to your position as a public, not your position, but public employees. And so letting public employees use district assets for personal purposes. And there's de minimis, like if someone gets an email, that's different, but like actually using equipment, those things really fly in the face of Florida ethical requirements.
So that's a new policy that was not in before.
So, okay, so give me an example here. If somebody wanted to, I don't know, take home.
I'll give it,
Go ahead.
sorry, I'll give an example for one of my clients. So one of my clients, they had, this is a water district, they had a lot of tools, right, because they have a maintenance shop, and basically employees were taking the tools home and doing side jobs at home with the tools, and then if a tool breaks, right, that's an issue. We ended up having tools missing, those type of things. Someone taking a district, I don't know if you guys have, you have chainsaw, but like I've had employees of other districts take home chainsaws and use them for their personal use. And it's the same thing with like district vehicles for personal use. But yeah, I mean, there's those type of things.
I think that's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
If they use district chainsaw and cut their arm off, we'd be liable.
Yes, you would.
We're liable for everything.
You're letting
We're in Florida, we're
you're
liable
letting
for
them
everything.
use you're letting the employees use it. So, yeah.
So now we're not, period.
Ms. Donaldson, are you under any further time constraints this morning?
My next one is, I think I have 11:30. Sorry, I'm just in Tallahassee, so it makes it, yeah, I have 11:30, so I'm good for another hour.
Okay, in the interest of time, while we have counsel, there's two that I really would like her to be present for, the drug and alcohol policy and the gun policy. So if you don't mind, we'll skip ahead in your packets and we'll move on to the drug policy next. Give me a
We're
moment.
coming back to 7:22.
We'll come back to the
Okay.
rest of it, but,
Okay.
just to make sure we have her for I can find where the drug policy is.
So, and this is my fault, because Lindsay,
You know,
sent this to me, so we do need to clarify the policy to say the district adheres to, about the lawfully possessed or locked inside of their personal vehicle, that is applicable to employees. So that first sentence needs to be clarified, that is employees. This whole section is related to employees,
right,
not related to the public. I just wanna make it really clear, because there's different legal requirements related to both. From a employee standpoint, the district legally can require employees to keep their guns in their vehicles, while they're at work. And to prohibit them from coming into the buildings with the guns, can prohibit them from bringing them into district vehicles, that is legal. That is very different than what allowances the district can do related to, the public.
This
So I
is
just want to be really clear that this is only for employees.
So I think it needs to say that in the title.
I think
It's in
that's
the
just-
employee handbook, but
Yes.
I know sometimes things
Okay,
get taken out of
okay.
context.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think get taken out of context, I just want to make sure that someone doesn't pick up that one sentence and says that we're violating the law related to open carry.
Right.
Okay, so that is really the preface of why I wanted this in here in particular, because of the new open carry law, so that we have appropriate guidance on how we are going to handle members of the public coming into the facilities. And I
So-
think.
Well, Adrian, this is just for employees.
All right. So does statute 790.251, does it reference employees, or is this just a general gun policy for the state? I didn't look at that statute.
Well,
I
there's
believe
one,
it is for employees.
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
So what I was gonna say, and I will, the law allows, so I guess we can get into what, this is an issue now, right, because of the recent court case. That's why it's kind of been in the paper as, so 790.251, that is dealing with keeping your guns in your car. That is very different than the carrying of concealed weapons. So I think what I'd like to do is just kind of break it down, whereas for the district, and this is any government or any employer has the ability to regulate their employees' use or carrying of a gun. We have that ability, we're allowed to have it in the car. The statute literally says that they can have it in the car, that statute. There is a different statute related to the public, and whether it's open carry or concealed, it's the same thing, dealing with when they are allowed to come into government buildings with a gun. And effectively, it is, you are allowed to prohibit the public from bringing a gun into the board meeting during a board meeting. But beyond that, if, let's say, someone wanted to come meet with Adrian, right or wrong, the district would not be able to prohibit the public from being able to carry a weapon into that meeting.
Concealed or open carry, correct?
Concealed or open, correct.
Let's say they were going into Pasco County Government Center, does that rule also apply?
So, it's interesting, they are allowed to go into the facility. They are not allowed to go into the board meeting if there's a county commission meeting, and this at all. And it's very nuanced, judges have different requirements, but from a very, and there's some other, I have one special district that everything is locked down. I mean, there's just, it's all very new, there's a lot of open conversations about it. But yeah, I mean, the public has the ability to come into, like I said, the facility, they just can't come into the board meeting if there's a board meeting that's going on.
So if you went to the Pasco County Government Center where there's a
police agency there and a metal detector, you, at this point in time, you declare, I have a 12-gauge shotgun with me, I'm just bringing it in, and then you make entrance? Is this the way it works now?
Well, the government center doesn't have metal detectors or a checkpoint.
No, but the judicial
Yeah,
center.
I
Oh, the
mean,
judicial center does, that's
Yeah,
right.
judicial center does.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Swift Mud does. If you go to Swift Mud, you gotta go through metal
Yeah,
detector.
Baycare does also.
so I will tell you, because I asked for this conversation, about Swift Mud, and because every building is locked down at Swift Mud, and I just, because people are doing this very differently, right? We've got an attorney general opinion that's come out, the sheriffs have come out with what this recent law, this recent legal opinion means. But even in talking with Swift Mud, it was confirmed that you can bring a weapon into the facility, but you're not allowed to go to the board meeting with it. Because that is what the law says.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
that's-
there's even questions about that bringing it into a board meeting, if that extends to like task force meetings or other meetings. The strict reading of it is the governing body board meeting.
And it specifically states special district meetings in the law as well.
Yeah, and this is very different than a, like, private business. A private business has the ability to, like, you can't go with a gun to Disney World. They have the ability, even if you have a license to carry it, they can prohibit, they're private, but from a public standpoint, that's a requirement. Now, what's in front of you today is the restrictions on employees and not letting employees bring guns into the facilities, but ensuring compliance that they're allowed to have them in their vehicles.
Yeah, I mean,
Public-private
is-
vehicles,
as
they're
far,
not allowed to
as
have
far as the
them.
purpose of this,
Is-
what is in front of us, I'm good with this. I don't know about you guys, but.
Is it legal to, if the board chose to consider this as an option, is it legal to allow employees to carry concealed or otherwise in a district facilities or in district vehicles? Understanding this policy right now prohibits it, but just, is that legal?
If the district so choose to allow its employees to, and have the risk related to that, to bring them into district buildings, yes, I don't believe there's a prohibition on that.
Would it also be allowable to have 2, 3 key trained individuals with the ability to do that?
So there's a lot of discussion related to why you would want to do something or not. And every decision, right, there's benefits and there's challenges related to doing, and doing that.
So, for point of clarification, Chairman, are you saying like you're designating an authorized staff member to carry?
Yes. I'm about freedom, so frankly, if an employee of the district so chooses to carry a concealed firearm in their daily life and bring it here, as long as it's not violating the law, like at a special district meeting, I have no problem if, Nick or Auden or anyone would wanna carry a firearm, that, just walking around the halls, cause we don't always have the sheriff deputy here. And there's a well-documented history of dum-dums and idiots walking in here, making threatening, just threatening in general. It's just, I would feel better knowing that they have our blessing to carry versus something were to occur and they were carrying and took action and you know, resolved the situation and then got spanked for it afterwards because they weren't allowed to do it, yet they saved, you know, umpteen lives. I just, you know, school shootings, all this crap going on. I'd rather, you know, when seconds matter, the police are just minutes away. I'd rather have the authority to do it right then and there. So my vote, as long as it's not during a special district meeting, which we have engaged the sheriff deputy to be in our stead, I'm fine with them, any employee carrying concealed. I don't like the open carry personally, but I am also a big believer in freedom.
I know we're not taking any votes, but I would say if the board wants to go down that path, Commissioner, that we should chart with our insurance carrier. I know many insurance carriers have potentially prohibitions related to allowing employees to carry guns.
Yeah, fine.
I just want the board here to make an informed decision on what, I just don't know what your policy says, so I just wanted to point that out, that may be prohibited from your insurance carrier.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we need to have that information. You know, to dovetail on what you said, there's a gun in my truck right now, and it's back here in the parking lot, and, you know, in my personal desk, my personal office, there's a gun. So, you know, within, and I agree with you, the open carry, I don't personally agree with, I don't see the need for that, but,
The element of surprise only lives once.
and personal protection, I think it's a right of our country. So, but I think the way this is written right now, that's fine, we can change it if so desired. You know, this is probably the more,
Well, and it allows employees that, you say Nick wants to carry one and Lindsay doesn't, that's fine, you know? Leaves it up to them. They just can't carry it during a meeting because we have a hired gun, so.
I did reach out to our insurance provider on this issue yesterday, not specifically does it cover us if we were to allow it, but there, in the insurance policy, there is the following exclusion, which most insurance policies have, regarding firearms. This insurance does not apply to bodily injury, property damage, or personal and advertising injury or medical payments arising out of the manufacture, importation, sales, distribution, gunsmithing, ownership, maintenance, or use of firearms or weapons. So that's in all of the insurance policies, this exclusion, as an exclusion. So I will follow up and see if there's further guidance related to
yeah, come back to us.
what our coverage would be if we were to allow for that.
I would still love for them to have the option to carry and protect themselves and sit on their hands and wait for someone to come and help them.
Well, I'm in agreement with the other two commissioners on this. The one thing, though, that I think we need to address sooner or later is if somebody from the public, and we don't know what their address is, we don't know, and they come in this facility with a sawed-off 12-gauge shotgun to meet with Adrian, or anybody, and I think we really need to get to a policy on that.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, so that's for Laura to work on. Okay.
Well, we do need to provide guidance, because as she said, she has some clients who are very restrictive and use the front door as a checkpoint. And if they were to be challenged, they'll deal with the liability on that after the fact. So if we can give her some guidance as to where you're leaning, I think that would help in her generating the policy language.
So what are we saying, screen at the front door, or Desi's the designated, do we hire a security guard during the days, just sit there and, that's cost prohibitive, I believe. Do we install a magnetometer? I carry a pocket knife everywhere I go.
Most of our staff do, we work
Sure.
out in the field.
I carry a gun everywhere I go. Except at this meeting.
I have a question. Is
Yeah.
this relate, or does this apply to parades and outside of the norm here, or voluntary? And just because it specifically says on duty, and those are considered voluntary, so I wanna make sure that we are covering that aspect too.
I personally think that this is it's a much larger discussion, and I'm not prepared to have it, because I wanna, I'm sitting here chastising myself for, not reading that statute, because I probably should have. I thought this was a pretty simple, policy. I mean, if that's something that y'all wanna consider, I'd say put it on the agenda and give us time to do some research.
Well, my suggestion would be just to change that open while on duty, change that duty part to open while representing the district, because that would cover, if we were to go that route, that would cover volunteer work or special events or anything like that. It's just a change of the wording versus.
So you're saying no open carry on a parade float, is that?
Correct. Well, this, if we say no, then it has to change because we just established that parade float is voluntary, so we're not on duty. So that's where I'm saying that it's a little bit contradictory to what we've said, if we were going that route.
I don't see why that would be any different than on duty, so in my mind, if we're going to allow it while
Correct,
on
but if we're
duty,
not.
I would say we open it up. But,
Being one of the parade organizers, I can assure you there is more protection on that parade route than you know of.
Agreed, Brandon.
And I can assure you of that.
But if an
yes,
employee says.
we'll amend that language if, when we come back. Yes, but good
And just for note, the policy didn't change from old to new, it's literally in here to
Right.
add or do whatever for
Mhm.
discussion, otherwise it just stays as it was.
Right,
Yeah.
and the email that I sent out with the webinar and some conversation with district council, that was to help aid in this discussion because it was coming, but we can certainly draft, if that's the direction we're heading, where we want to see if insurance, if there's any restriction there, and then we can come up with, something for the next board meeting on potentially allowing concealed carry for those who have that license, to do so in our facilities and in district vehicles.
And it's no longer a license, I mean, anyone can now carry a firearm. So the concealed carry
Oh,
is,
yeah, I see what you're
so
saying.
even my daughter at the hair salon, she can carry a firearm. You don't need a concealed weapons.
Well, why do they consider the licensing under concealed weapons then?
Well, that came prior to what just happened.
But that still exists, correct?
Yes, oh yeah, I have one.
I have one too, but
So what's the purpose?
why?
It's the freedom of every American to be able to
Doesn't it create,
lawfully,
doesn't it create a database for the police to understand who has the weapons?
you saying the concealed carry?
Yes,
Well, that would, yes.
it does.
Does it have more to do with reciprocity? Because we have that license in Florida.
Right, so you can carry to,
And wherever
states that
allow that.
recognize it, yes, absolutely. But I'm saying here in the state of Florida,
You don't need it.
you don't need the license to carry.
But you can still
carry
get it.
as You could still get it,
You could
yes.
still get it,
And
so that way
there
you
are
are
benefits of
covered
doing
if
that.
you
You
go to-
avoid the 3-day cool-off period and all that.
Oh, there's a benefit, yeah, yeah.
That's right.
So, I mean, that's a consideration too, while it may not be required, is that something that you want to require?
What,
If
making
we
them
do-
have a concealed carry?
Yes, if we are gonna open this up. I mean, at least at that point, you know that they've gone through that process, and there are some requirements, the criteria to
Sure.
get that license, instead of just allowing it for anyone.
Yeah, I mean,
I think we'd have to look at it, and so here we go, getting into this, we shouldn't go too deep.
Yeah, I really would like to
So
have
that-
this conversation at a later date.
I had a squatter a couple years ago squatting in my place, my son's place. A sheriff's deputy advised the squatter to file charges against me for stalking because I tried to get them out of the place. They did that, and then the sheriff's department showed up at my house the next day, said, "We recognize you have a concealed weapons permit. Where are your guns?" I said, "They're in the house locked up in a safe." I went in the house, took the guns away. Okay? So I'm telling you that there's a whole lot more to this, as we all know.
Mhm.
Yeah, right.
And it's really a shame because I think the intention of the concealed weapons permit is a good one, but the way it can be used against us is not good at all. Yeah, I did get my weapons back, and I did have to go to a hearing with the Department of Agriculture to get the weapons back, and it took 5 months to get that squatter out of the house.
What a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. Couldn't imagine the turmoil that caused for my kids who lost some of their guns too. Yeah. But, yeah, this is a big deal. Let's move on.
Let's.
Okay?
Okay, Mr.
We will
Chairman.
come back to that one at a later date. Okay, and I'd like to move on to the drug policy next. Now, you do not have this in your printouts for today because they were quite lengthy, the ones that we gave as examples. So really, I would just like the board to give clear guidance so that we can draft our policy to what you all decide today. So I think the biggest things, we need to know what we are going to be testing for. When our existing policy was written, that was right at the time that medical marijuana was being considered for approval, and there were a lot of questions surrounding it at the time, so this policy has not been updated since. And our existing policy does not test for marijuana. So the question for you all, are we going to continue that way, or are we going to now test for marijuana? So I guess we start there. So, do we have a list of what we do test for?
I think it is listed in the handbook, the current handbook, yeah.
We don't have the current in front of us. Can you read off those items?
Yeah,
please?
I might not pronounce some of these right.
Okay.
Alcohol, meth, basically, barbiturates, cocaine, methadone, PCP, hallucinogens, opiates, benzodiazepines, synthetic narcotics, propoxyphene, amphetamines, methaqualone, these are all different meth ones, designer drugs or metabolite of substances listed herein, any other drugs declared illegal by state or federal authorities.
So that's where it's ambiguous, because in Florida, the use of medical marijuana is permitted, but it's still illegal on the federal level. So,
Right, and it's not recreational, so.
right, and so if we're testing it, and an employee does use it for medicinal purposes, there's no way to distinguish whether they were doing that off-duty hours last night so that they could go to sleep, or if they were doing it on the clock while they were at work. So there is a lot of room for interpretation there, and this is what we want to avoid. So we need clear guidance as to what to do here.
Well, it seems to me like it needs to be tied to whether or not they have a medical card. Now, having said that, I think you can get a medical card as easy, you can get, some sweet tarts. But,
I like the comparison. Sweet.
I think that they have to at least have had that card in possession. I mean,
So can I just stop it?
yes, please,
Sorry.
that's right where I was going.
So the issue that comes in is, I always go back to, is someone impaired, right? Because ultimately, we're not the morality police. And it really is an employee impaired? Unlike alcohol or other drugs, technology is unable to determine impairment related to marijuana. In fact, someone could have smoked 3 weeks ago, and if they get tested for marijuana, it could most likely show up as being positive. It depends on how much they smoked and how often they smoked. And so so what would happen is if someone had to do a drug test, they would need to disclose that they have a medical marijuana card. That does, we still have issues related to whether or not they are impaired at work, because it's gonna show up as that person may not be impaired at work, but it's still gonna show up as a drug test. So marijuana is a very gray area in Florida right now. There are no employee protections related to marijuana. We also cannot, there's a few positions that we would be able to potentially prohibit the use of marijuana, like our pilots, maybe, some safety sensitive positions, but generally you can't just prohibit, and all employees are not allowed to smoke marijuana. That I think would create some legal issues for the district.
So what if under the safety policy, it clearly states, as it probably does already, that you cannot be impaired while on duty?
I think that's completely legal, is to say that you cannot be impaired. We don't care what the drug is, you cannot be impaired. The difficulty that comes in with when you test someone, the test in and of itself is not gonna show whether or not that person is impaired for marijuana. It's just gonna show that they are testing positive for marijuana.
Okay.
Which is very different than any other drug.
And your advice is?
So my advice is just that we, so your drug-free policy is not required by law, and it is really a way to get a discount on your, it's to get a discount, is that you should test for it and then deal with letting them disclose if they have a medical marijuana card. And at some point, technology will catch up and there will be a test to determine if someone is impaired at work because of marijuana.
How much is the discount?
And you get a discount with a drug-free policy.
And the price is?
Or under, I think it's
It depends on your
chapter
insurance.
Correct, I'll have to check that out.
Okay, check it out, please.
I'm sitting here thinking that, so our company has a drug-free workplace policy, right? And the policy is what the insurance company told us the policy is. So I would be more apt to sort of default to that, because that's the purpose of us having it, is to get a discount, plus it's the right thing
Well,
to do,
it's
right?
also a liability
Yeah.
concern.
Yeah, yeah, everything's a liability, so. But, I mean, I would prefer either have Laura draft the policy so that it's legal in conjunction with what the insurance company requires.
So,
recommends.
if I can interject, the options, there were 3 options put in. These came directly from what Laura had presented as far as other districts or special districts, their drug-free policy. So option 1 is directly from another special district, not Mosquito, but special district. There is an example of another Mosquito district policy in there, that's option 3. So these were taken directly from what she considers a fully robust, fully comprehensive drug and, I'll say drug-free workplace policy. So I would say option 1 is probably the most robust legal.
And does it meet the insurance requirements?
I would imagine so. It's pretty in-depth.
So our supervisors know our employees very well. What's our fallout rate?
What do you mean our fallout rate?
If
from
we
what?
start testing for marijuana.
If we start
What do
testing.
you mean by fallout?
So we-
Eighty
we-
out
People
to
gotta let go.
80%.
You don't know that. First, we're talking about testing on hire, so it's when are we testing, right now we test when everyone comes in, we run background and drug, minus marijuana, that's the only thing that's not tested for on pre-employment. Post-accident, marijuana is included in that right now, and alcohol. So it's when are we testing, who, so this, after reading through this option 1, the final policy that Laura had sent, I personally feel like this is the best one, it is just well-rounded, but it's when we're testing them and what are we testing them for, is really what needs to be decided.
So,
Yeah, and I just wanna, I will say that policy took about 2 years to refine it, because we had to, like, create the form and other things, but I will say, reasonable suspicion, this is a US constitutional issue about when you can test. And so the reasonable suspicion, it's just not a car accident, like if someone shows up and they seem to be impaired, we have very specific steps that you legally need to follow in order to ensure that you're not violating someone's rights for the drug testing. And I will say that the policy I provided is robust and has been looked at by many companies and people to ensure that we are not violating anyone's rights related to reasonable testing. The car accident, the courts have already said you get in a car accident, you don't have to go through the reasonable testing, there are steps, who sees it? The form for a car accident, the courts have said the accident in and of itself basically creates that there is reasonable suspicion, and you don't have to go through the other process of having an observer write down what they saw and having that signed off and going through it. So this is more than just car accidents, this is like if someone showed up and they were drunk or impaired, impaired. But you can look at the different options, and then, the district can get with our insurance company, because it's a workers' comp discount, to see what that looks like, and then get back to the board.
The insurance company may like one over the other, so, yeah, I mean, based on what I'm hearing right now, I would go with option 1, but I do believe that it needs to be run past the insurance company.
We can definitely do that.
so on option, I'm sorry, you got the floor, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that I need to do a hard stop at 11:30 today.
Okay. So on option 1, let's say we have an auto accident, we have an employee that tested positive for marijuana. Is that the point we terminate employment, or what does the policy say?
So, I mean, it goes into quite a bit, and it's new to me, so I can't,
Okay, all right,
just
well,
speak to it off the cuff, but it is outlined in here, what that would look like.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, there's options for, if they wanted to enter rehabilitation, but at their own expense, the process after that, so.
So after they've created the incident, then we're gonna rehabilitate them. That's really wise.
Well, we can't control what people do on their own personal time, so it's just, you know,
No, but we
how
can
we-
when they drive a government vehicle.
Of course.
Or we better be.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, that's why you have a drug-free policy in place.
That's right.
correct.
Yeah.
So I would say for sure, the option, after putting it all together, it's complex, but it also is not only beneficial for the employee, but also the district, so it's very
Okay.
comprehensive.
All right, so I'll read that more in depth, get a better understanding of it.
Laura, can you talk a little bit about, just so they have awareness, when you were saying safety-specific positions versus all employees?
I think she dropped off.
Sorry, I was actually able to switch over to the phone,
Okay.
so I can walk back. So there are certain positions in statute which kind of have a higher threshold, and so we just have to go through and define that. But everyone could be required if someone shows up impaired. And, Commissioner Abbott, you know, if someone has a positive test result, there are protections in place that require kind of, there's a second, like, testing of the sample in order to ensure that there were no mistakes by the lab.
Makes sense?
Yeah, I think the difference in the employees is pre-employment. So on pre-employment, do we test X group of employees because they're safety specific or is high risk or something along that, versus all employees? When it comes to accidents or things, you know, reasonable suspicion, that would apply to everybody. So it's just
Right.
another thing for consideration that I was not aware of. That it doesn't have to be all employees on the. And didn't you say, like, it maybe shouldn't be all employees on the pre-employment?
Yes, there is some case law out there that, you really should not be testing every potential employee. There's been, a court case on that, yes.
So.
She used the word potential. After hire, before hire?
Before, this would be pre-employment testing.
Pre-employment.
Currently, our policy is we test everybody.
Which I think is good, so.
I think if you're
slip through the
driving a
cracks.
vehicle, we're saying on one hand, you need to drive a district vehicle, I agree, but there's also, as you pointed it out, that it's something to consider.
Yeah, we could be hiring a crack at
Yeah, for sure.
So we don't currently on the pre-employment test for marijuana.
Correct.
So if I heard you all correctly, do we have consensus that we want to start testing for marijuana?
Pre-employment, yes.
For pre-employment? Because right now we do for post-accident and
To my knowledge, since I've been in this role, we haven't done reasonable
No.
suspicion, but I don't know if we have in the past.
not since I've been
Okay.
here.
Yeah, this
But
outlines that whole
I
thing.
think it has
so,
happened
yeah.
prior.
Yeah, so far, just post-accident, we do.
So yes, in consensus, we're adding marijuana for our drug testing.
I'm
Across
for
the
that.
board.
Absolutely.
And then we will further refine option one to meet what we discussed today and have that to present back to you for the next meeting.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Does our policy now, Lindsay, allow for reasonable suspicion testing? I think it does.
I think it mentions
So that's
it, but it
not
has
a-
no
a
pro-
direction
process
we
or
need from the board.
protocol.
We can keep that. Okay. Okay, anything further on the drug policy we need to call out, Lindsay?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, we have you for a few more minutes. All right, so you wanna jump back to 7.22, please? Employee education, training, professional development.
I have some questions on the retention commitment and the reimbursement. So can you sort of walk me through this, and what do you mean by for 1-year commitments, for 2-year commitments, and a little bit confused there.
Sure. So this is actually how we have been operating already. There's maybe some tweaks, but by and large, it depends on the amount of money the district is paying for the training. So the table that you see here, sorry, the header is on the other page, cost of training and then the commitment period. So if the training is up to just under $5,000, the requirement is that you stay for 6 months because the district invested up to $5,000 in your training. We want you to stay at least for a little while before you move on to something else if you voluntarily resign. If the district paid between $5,000 and just under $7,500, the requirement is to stay for 1 year. If the district paid over $7,500 or above, then the requirement is to stay for 2 years. If you do not meet those requirements, the commitment to stay, then the next table is the repayment required for the cost of the training. And it's prorated based on the amount of time that you don't meet for that time commitment in the prior table.
Okay, I understand.
So it's recouping some of the funds that were invested if the employee decided to voluntarily resign.
You know, so I've actually taken advantage of some of these training things, not from the district, but from prior employers. And the commitment, the minimum commitment was always a year. If I left prior to a year, then I would owe back regardless of what the money is. You know, 6 months I just think is way too short of a period of time. You know, if we're gonna invest something in somebody to get a license or certification, and regardless of the amount of money, you know, they probably are maybe in some cases doing it on district time as well. Yeah, I would like to see the 6 months stricken, and, you know, it be a minimum of 1 year. And then some maybe type of, you know, if it's a certification or certificate program, maybe it's a year. But if it's a you know, a degree of some sort, then that ought to be I would say a 2-year commitment. And if they leave prior to that, they should pay it all back. Not just some, you know, a percentage of it. That's the policies that you know, the private companies I've worked for, you know, that's what their policies were.
So I have a question on this, and I actually asked Laura as well. I understand being able to deduct, you know, whatever they owe from their final paycheck, but say it's not enough. What does that realistically look like in terms of recouping that money from an employee? Because they are no longer an employee. You have no mechanism to take money from them, so what does that look like? Well, but ultimately, let's say their final paycheck is distributed, right? They're done. We have no more mechanism as a district to take that money from them. Do we then have to pursue legal action to get that money back?
Yeah, so the way it works is, one, we can, when we deduct it from their last paycheck, we still have to make sure that they still have to make minimum wage. But generally with something like this, I would recommend that they signed a contract, but yeah, you would have to sue them in order, generally it would probably be in small claims court, but you would have to sue them in order to recoup the money that's owed to the district.
So to me, that's why I was like, well, are we really gonna do that?
Well, I'll give you a real life example. So in private enterprise, you sign a promissory note. And when I started my company, I left Wells Fargo a year prior to fulfilling a contract with them. And the very next day, so I resigned on I think it was I think it was on a Thursday, Friday morning, I was handed a UPS envelope with a demand letter for significant amount of money, which I knew was coming, so, you know, I had to write him a check, which I gladly did, but, you know, private enterprise makes you sign a promissory note, and if you don't pay it, there's lots of case law in our industry where they win, and, you know, you owe it. So, I mean, that's how private enterprise does it.
So we do have
Yeah, and that effectively what would work with the district in this scenario, Commissioner Cox.
and we do have a form that they would sign ahead of time before the district pays for that training. If it's over a certain dollar amount, because it's not for everything, like it's not a registration fee for a conference.
Yeah,
That's
it's,
different.
these
It's-
were the amounts that were aligned, that were given, but we can definitely tweak whatever, so that.
So we have a form that I guess would serve as that promissory note, so similar to that
Well, I
you
mean,
agree that if you leave before that commitment is over, then you pay back.
Because there's two scenarios in this policy, and that's one thing I wanna clarify too, is that there's a reimbursement option where I would pay for my class or whatever, my education first, and then seek reimbursement after the fact. Or where the district, you know, pays up front. So there's two scenarios. But yeah, I mean, realistically, how do we do it? And I wanna make sure that this policy reflects how we would go about recouping that money if we in fact go down this path.
it's I'm sure somewhere in the archives, well, I know I have it, it's a the promissory note is trying to remember the exact terminology, but it's forgiven. The structures that I was under, it was every month a certain portion was forgiven, right? And if you left at whatever certain time, you knew what the balance was that was owed. I would just say, do something similar here, where, you know, a promissory note is a legally enforceable document that says under certain conditions, you know, you owe that.
But you still have to go to court.
Yeah, you
If
have to go to
somebody
court.
did.
You have to go to court,
Okay.
and, you know, I mean, if you have to
If
do
they don't pay,
that.
right, but that's what I'm saying, if they don't pay, then you go to court, and then what does that
If
look like for us?
you have to do that, you do it, you know, once or twice, and, you know, you probably never have to go again,
Probably.
you know.
And Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, the military has, what, 12 months?
That changed, if you sign a contract and you gotta fulfill the end of the contract, or it's prorated to time of service that you did for a 6-year contract that you signed up for, to get reimbursed.
So it is prorated.
It's prorated, so your time of service counts as you go into school for those extra 4 or 6 years you signed up for.
Sorry, it's been a while.
Yeah, I would just say structure like, something like that, but my biggest thing is, I think it should be at least a year.
Is that the consensus?
It is, 1 year.
Okay.
And then did you demand the payment in full, or did you give options for payment over time? Or is that just determined sort of how it works out legally? Cause some of the, I mean, $10,000, somebody's
Yeah.
writing a check for $10,000.
Right,
you
no, I
know?
mean,
Good interest.
if you work out a payment plan, you know,
Yeah,
I think in some instances in our industry, that has been the case. Not always though.
fair, I mean, I just
Yeah.
want it, however we decide, I just want it to be clear, because people engaging, might even, I'll just speak personally, if I engage in that, I wanna know what is required of
Yep.
me ultimately. Okay, so we're gonna have to work on this policy too, I think, a little more.
Yep. Yep, we can shore that up a little bit and give you a new draft for consideration at the next meeting. The next one is use of vehicles, with the exception of what we've already discussed that we need to tweak a little bit or relocate. Lindsay, is there anything else in here?
Let me glance at them.
Okay. This would be 8.4. Halfway through. Nope, keep going.
I mean, nothing that we haven't sort of touched on already. The weapons is in there, hands-free use, that kind of stuff. Option 2 is far more robust. There are a couple of them in there that I think I would even just like to talk back with Laura a little bit on, if they are legal or, if they were added into this policy. Again, this was taken from another district, and tweaked to match us. So just trying to make sure that we're not eliminating things that are actually legally required. But other than that, no, I would probably just read through both of them to see if you have questions.
Well, where I think that this will come under more scrutiny is over the next year or two, since we're in the wrong part of the county where our headquarters are, is that in the future, it may make sense for technicians on the other side of I-75 to potentially take the vehicle home 1 or 2 nights a week.
Don't we do that, right?
We currently have one technician that lives way out east, and that is his service area, and so he has a take-home vehicle, yes. So we already
Oh,
have
good.
allowance for
Okay.
that.
Mhm.
We just don't have anyone else that lives out there,
Okay, all right.
because the commute is so far.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
But
So
that is
that's
addressed.
already in place and
Take
it's
home
working
is,
well.
it's been, and
Yes.
it's still in here,
Good.
yeah.
So, the technician responsibilities here in this, so, check in twice daily with their supervisor.
Yeah, I wondered about that too, but all that. You got GPS on and everything else?
So we do, now we have a much more robust vehicle monitoring system than when we wrote the policy. I don't know if in practice, is he still checking in twice daily?
Yeah, they talk quite often, yeah.
But you do that just through the course of.
Hey, we got a
of-
service
of
call
business-
here, or.
Of business, not
Yes.
saying,
Happened.
hey, are you, working?
Yeah, hey, I'm good. Yeah.
No.
I could-
So tell me about the.
I would take that out.
But
The out.
we can probably remove that.
Okay, the out east technician, when they start work in the morning, do they log in through their cell phone, their time clock, or how do they start the day?
Through the ADP app.
Okay, so it already happens.
So the
Yes.
clock in, clock out is in his, what's it called?
His mobile
Local
device.
The geofence.
Geofence.
of
Where
where it
there's
is.
no sense in calling you and interrupting your day to say, hey, I'm alive.
Yeah, and then this employee calls every morning, every afternoon.
Okay.
Just,
So the
I think that
requirement
was
to
just
do
more
that
for,
can
make sure
probably
you're
be removed.
checking in. And we didn't have GPS and all these things. But I can take it, I made a note to take it out.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it needs to be there, right?
Anything
Is that
else on that? That is the, did you want? Which one do I want? Okay.
Well, I think we're coming to the end of our time we allocated for this, so let's wrap it up for today. If there's other items, we'll move it to we'll put them on the board meeting agenda. So let Adrian know if there's anything else anybody wants on that agenda. Everybody good with that?
So, but didn't you say earlier that it was yellow and red we were gonna discuss?
Yep.
Yes,
Okay, so, but we didn't get to some of them.
we did not.
Okay.
We can continue on if you want to.
No, I can't.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, but we, I mean, so we're
Can we do
gonna
part of it
continue this
during the
on?
meeting?
I'm sorry, you both asked the question at the same time.
No, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
All right, well, can we do this during a meeting, just a regular meeting to button it up, or do we need to do this all over again, a workshop?
I think we have enough direction that we can work on the policies outside of the meeting, have a draft back to you for consideration, and then if we still have further discussion, depending on how lengthy it will be, we can try to do it at the board meeting. If not, then we can go from there. But I think we have enough of our questions answered in how you want to move some of these that were still a little ambiguous, so I think we could proceed, just put it, it'll be on the agenda for the next board meeting. It is next week, so I don't know that we're gonna have everything in time for next meeting to have all of this completed. But we will try to get these wrapped up as soon as possible, and then we can decide if further discussion is needed. That's gonna be lengthy, then we can do another workshop. But I think we can probably do it in a regular board meeting,
Okay.
hopefully. That make sense?
Very well.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Okay, well, I appreciate you all taking the time to review these and provide your guidance. I think it's important that, you know, we're all in agreement on how we're going to be moving forward with administration of, our individual policies. So thank you for doing that, and we will get back with some new drafts for you.
Okay.
Very good. So look for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye. Motion carries. We're adjourned.